Hey guys, Ron here, and I made custom Pokemon for you. You see, over the last year, a certain creator got popular for making AI Fakemon on YouTube and TikTok. People ate those videos up so much that the channel grew enough for them to begin commissioning the Fakemon that are featured in their videos and shorts. But unfortunately, they still promote their AI Fakemon in relatively recent shorts, and use AI to generate many of the assets in their videos, as of the day I recorded this, like their thumbnails and all the non-Pokemon characters and backgrounds that they display on screen. It's not up to me to police that sort of thing, but every week I get comments asking me to feature this influencer in my For Artists series, despite them not being an artist. I'm sure he's a nice guy, so don't send him any hate, because I'm glad he's slowly transitioning away from AI, but the reason for mentioning him is to explain that this video is my way of giving Fakemon fans an option to support a similar series in case they are not comfortable watching a channel that built a majority of their fanbase off the back of AI-generated art. So in order to actually make custom Pokemon for you guys, I decided to ask you guys to submit Fakemon concepts for me to design, along with illustrations of your ideas so that I can redesign them to fall more in line with Pokemon's design philosophy. It's basically a revival of the series I made 2 years ago. I decided that this video could start a new series where I showcase Fakemon made by artists who aren't ready to compete in the Fakemon contests that I've been holding over the last year. I went through more than 700 submissions to find 4 entries to redesign, and then 1 additional entry for Patreon or YouTube members. So if you want to see this become a series and potentially see your Fakemon become a full-fledged Pokemon, leave a like and subscribe, and check the description for the link to where you can submit your Fakemon today. And if you want a bigger chance of securing your spot in a potential part 2, consider becoming a patron or YouTube member by following the link in the description or clicking the join button. Maybe if this becomes popular enough, we can have guest artists too. Now before I show you my first pick, you gotta understand that instead of challenging you guys to come up with the best designs, I wanted to see concepts that entertained me. Once I collected a few of these concepts, I would do my job and design them. Every artist that submitted their idea gave their consent for me to critique their work, and even asked me to find ways to fully flesh out their concept. So without further ado, the first pick is Astrode by Alex Forlice. I assume that's the username. Regardless, fantastic concept. Despite seeing the faults that the artist pointed out, there are a few unique details that I'd love to use in the final version, like the star eyes and the color scheme. The idea of combining an asteroid and a toad makes a lot of sense since a tadpole does look like a comet. Keep in mind, as per the rules, I'm only redesigning 1 Pokemon per line, which is fine because Cosmopole needs way less help. I do have some ideas when it comes to Astrode. First, I'm going to try to give it more of a toad-like body. The original Astrode is slightly more frog-like proportionally, which isn't bad, but a rounder and bumpier toad would make much more sense for something that is supposedly, rock type and inspired by a meteor. But most importantly, instead of having a flat blue wisp surrounding Astrode, we're going to give it the tail of a froglet. One of the stages between tadpole and adult in a frog life cycle, because that's basically the whole point of the concept. The fact that toad tails look like comic tails. As per the lore and vibe, I'll make it feel more like a superhero, with the fins on the arms that look both like fire but also algae that could grow on such an amphibian or something. The expression is practically the same, and to finish it off, I gave it circles that look like craters. It'll have far more depth when shaded, and the subtle cracks will help it look like it has skin made of rock. Check out Astrode, the asteroid toad Pokemon, a rock flying type with the abilities Rock Head, Dry Skin, and Sheer Force. This arrogant yet surprisingly caring Pokemon patrols the atmosphere for threats like incoming meteors. They can often be seen flying through the skies in colonies of other asteroid, putting on breathtaking displays for trainers to wish on. I'm so happy with how this turned out. It was another excuse to draw a frog, and most importantly, it was super fun to compare the difference in shapes that the original design has with mine. Crazy how the exact same Pokemon concept could be interpreted. Now, between the entries, I do want to honor some honorable mentions that caught my attention and were almost redesigned. Being noticed out of 700 plus is a big deal for me, so this is no small feat. Emma's Mimosqueak is an adorable take on how harvest mice sleep in flowers. I love the multiple colored forms, and I would have totally redesigned it to fit Pokemon's art style more, but concept-wise, it's pretty much almost there. Terracotta by Trick or Treat Art is a great play on how artists collect shells mixed with the Terracotta Warriors, but then I realized I like it so much because it's already similar to one of my favorite Pokemon, Samurott. But Terracotta could totally be a valid Pokemon on its own. Keep in mind, I do plan on doing more streams where I critique your Fakemon and give you pointers, so there are a bunch of opportunities to see your design on this channel. And I'll showcase some more honorable mentions between each entry. But first, our number 2 spot goes to Nizukito by Josia Region. This one made me feel like a child again. The happiness that this Pokemon brought me motivated me throughout making this video. This could totally be a Pokemon, and it's almost there. there are a bunch of tiny changes I'd make that all add up. First, I gotta say, Larvaqua is already perfect. That is exactly how one should design a straw inchworm larva Pokemon. The way it stretches is genius. But let's see how Mizukito could be updated a bit more. The two major changes would be that I believe the abdomen, where the water collects, should look like a plastic cup or water bottle that would contain a silly straw, which would complement the bright colors. And then a minor change with a big impact would be that the goggle-like straw glasses should connect with the antennas, finally completing what looks like those silly straws that go over the eyes. The rest is simply fleshing out the already existing shapes. Since dude already looks quite mechanical, noodlier arms that are segmented will make it look softer while also being cohesive with the stripes I added around the body. The colors are practically the same. In the end, the pose is really the biggest change, so it looks a bit more three-dimensional compared to the original. Check out Mizukito, the Siphon Pokemon, a bug water type from Mizu, which means water in Japanese, and Mosquito. Its abilities are Sap Sipper, Rain Dish, and Clear Body. Mizukito sucks in water from its straw-like proboscis. It can extend its mouth out twice the length of its body. Mizukito loves to play in the water with humans and other Pokemon. It often shoots water at unsuspecting humans and Pokemon to try to get them to play with it. They congregate near water sources in order to regularly refill their abdomen with fresh water. This Pokemon ended up feeling like a nostalgic project that I got to participate in. I mean, crazy straws, water parks, and even such a lighthearted design very much remind me of my childhood. These colors represented 10-year-old Ron during the summer, while the shiny feels like a drink I would have gotten at an amusement park during summer camp trips. Before moving on, here are some more honorable mentions. Gobs needs help consolidating the colors of Droppelknot and making it fit Pokemon's design philosophy a bit more, but his art already surpasses 99% of the entries here, so I thought I'd simply, show it off and move on to pieces that actually need my help a bit more. Now, Caffeine Artist was the only one to submit a 3D piece of art, so I definitely wanted to show it to you guys. We definitely need a Pokemon that is based on an orange, and this is not a bad attempt. I love how the orange peels wrap this Fakemon, and the colors are legit. The concept needs a bit more fleshing out before I attempt to redesign it though. Keep in mind that I will consider redesigning one of the honorable mentions in a potential part 2, if it seems to be popular in the comment section. Now let's move on to the Patreon pick, a design submitted by a member on my Patreon Discord. That was Doulahan by Simple Shrimp. A Doulahan is a mythical headless horseman, and combining it with a chicken, probably the animal that is most often decapitated, is quite clever. The fact that this Pokemon doesn't realize it's dead is also quite humorous and makes sense with, chickens running around headless. The artist stated that they want us to find a way to make the Pokemon look more oblivious, but even I would find that challenging. Dude is also asking me for a more dynamic pose, but I think it would, remain stoic in my redesign. You see, since we're not redesigning the other members of its family, I'm gonna make this more of a general chicken instead of a hen or a rooster, just so I can utilize the large comb in the design. You see, clearly this is an armored bird, so I will take a bit of inspiration from the inaccurate depictions of Greek or Roman helmets, since it would allow us to naturally implement a chicken comb. In order to make this guy look oblivious, I'm just gonna make it look up and look more stubborn, as if it's too resolute to die. Throughout the process, I'm basically adding plating that mimics the natural shapes of a chicken, but most importantly, the original has these blue feathers that I will, interpret as a spectral light that will peek through the slits in its armor. The breastplate will look more like ribs, and the new tail will mimic the material that the crest on the head is made of. Beware, Doulahan, the ignorant Pokemon, a steel ghost type with the new ability Grave Ignorance, which allows this Pokemon to move for one extra turn after fainting. An ethereal energy has reanimated Doulahan. Its metal feathers form a tough plated armor that protects it from harm and keeps its body intact. It is too stubborn to notice it has passed away. These Pokemon are incapable of giving up. As a patron pick, I made sure to not be lazy and chose a Fakemon that wouldn't be simpler to redesign. I think this is actually the biggest divergence between original and redesign in this video, since I owed Simple Shrimp my full attention. In the end, we made a pretty badass Pokemon together, something that I would love to showcase in the future again. We need more ghostly animal Fakemon. Now you know the drill. Here are some honorable mentions. Clockstritch by Crashington is a rather genius combination of a Baba Yaga, Cuckoo Clock, and Ostrich. If I were redesigning 6 Pokemon today, this would have been the 6th, since it would be my pleasure to add a bit more detail to the bird and make it more cohesive with the nest and incorporate more clock elements. Overall, a perfect submission though. Geedle by Shy Blue Knight is such a fun beetle geode concept. While this design could totally be pushed a bit more, I personally don't really know how I would fix it, so I decided to refrain from messing it up. It totally works already though, and Korokorobi is by far the most fleshed out and complicated concept here. It deserves a pause so you can kind of read everything that was written. Did you pause? The two major reasons I didn't really redesign it were, one, I think it would need multiple forms to showcase the versatility of this Pokemon, and two, I'm honestly a bit intimidated by the concept. I was afraid I would change something that the artist, Okaden, would consider necessary or important. And since the creator seems to already be very creative, I'm sure they can fully realize this design eventually. But I do know what I'd like to change about my fourth entry, Bazowiel by Chronocycoid. I would have never believed in such a Pokemon until I saw this artist basically make me, understand the vision. A vine that controls two rocks makes total sense. Definitely one of the best rendered designs here, but the artist tasked us with making the vines look less cluttered, and in the end, most of the changes would be to make it look slightly cooler. Many may end up preferring the original's goofiness, but I want to see if I can make it seem more like an actual creature with anatomy that makes sense. So first, I'll draw the silhouette of a bike to model the shape over. I want the face to be more of a traditional leaf, but make it look like a mask over a vine. Perhaps this thing, while not a snake, would be more biologically related to something like a superior. It's a quadrupedal vine reptile. I'm making the seat look like the same exact leaf on the head, and the vines a bit less chaotic, so that we can clearly imagine what this creature looks like when it's not holding onto the rocks. Gonna implement some winding tendrils so that it looks more playful, but of course, some thorns for style. As you see, the eyes will consist of a hole in the leaf, so it looks more natural instead of two googly eyes, which I believe are the main problem I had with the original. Sugimori himself said that if a Pokemon is already goofy, then add something cool to balance it out, and vice versa. So the eyes looking more serious is what I think ties it all together. The colors I gave it also have a bit more contrast so that the leaves stand out from the vines. Here is Bazowiel, the two-wheeler Pokemon, a grass rock type with the abilities Sand Rush, Quick Feet, and Rock Head. In order to run away from threats, Bazowiel attached its roots to round boulders and rides them at top speeds. The boulders gradually become more cylindrical as Bazowiel uses them. Its resemblance to a bike has become a common joke among biologists, botanists, and mechanics. In battle, they stretch out their vines to whack opponents with their rock wheels. I love this. I also love the original too. I guess the new one simply matches my aesthetics. I know people would make fun of it if it were, real, but upon seeing it move in the game and perhaps its bipedal form, people would warm up to it. But before moving on to the final Pokemon I'm going to redesign, I do want to mention my 10 favorite designs that were submitted to the contest. These were Fakemon that I wasn't really considering redesigning because they're already pretty fantastic Fakemon, and would only need a few minor tweaks to be fully realized. Danish Mish's Dunkadoodle is a fun and well-designed mon. Not only does it have the right amount of details and shapes for a Pokemon, but its Prevo Boinglet needs no changes and makes this line complete. Fakemon Go's 875's Hopperator is also incredibly well drawn. Like, why in the world would you need help when you clearly know how to design a Fakemon? Honestly, wouldn't change anything. Nelson's Ghoulass needs a bit of work to make it feel more like a Pokemon, but as a character design, I was amazed. It's stupendous. Genius, honestly. How have I never seen such a thing before? I don't really understand how it works biologically, but I'm mesmerized. Lost Items not only gives us a killer design, but also showcases how the same Fakemon looked a few years ago. With the progress they made, I'm sure they can realize this design in a few months. Edison gave us one of the cutest submissions ever, so I was surprised that they thought Bubhead needed any improvement. It's practically perfect. Dude says they struggled with rendering, but I literally see no flaw. Smokney is a perfect Objectmon with so much personality. Dude is looking for texture, shading, and color tips, so give the artist some ideas in the comment section. Sixpence Coin made one of my favorite Toad Pokemon I've ever seen. I think the balance between organic and mechanical was actually pretty good, and any changes I would make would only be anatomical and perspective based. Pinwing is a friend. Super Pixel T put a lot of effort into showcasing the concept, and I'd simply just make it more bowling pin shaped. Cranberry Cake's chest line is so fun. My thoughts are unfortunately a bit too complicated to describe here because there are a bunch of minor tweaks I would simply make to each Pokemon in the evolutionary line, but the artist is definitely on the right track. And finally, Motorbug by Glasses Dude simply needs to be rendered in Sugimori style to be finalized. I wouldn't change anything since it's already super cool with the right amount of details. Unlike our final entry, which will need the most amount of work today. Bedasma by Jaxamon. I can sense that this will be my favorite to redesign, because it'll be fun to see how different and similar it will be to the original. You see, there's nothing wrong with the concept, since good ideas are what I'm redesigning today. But I have a few ideas of my own to complete this concept. Game Freak would totally do something like this, and I believe the way I'm about to do it is how. First, we gotta make the blanket look like a cloak, with volume and heft. Perhaps more bedding is underneath. We want this to look like a living poltergeist after all. The pillows will have the classic happy and sad comedy and drama mask face, since this will end up looking hella theatrical. And Objectmon are always super doable as a ghost type, and this will be the pinnacle of such designs. I want to make it look like it was patched up, so it isn't simply a generic pillow with a face. The stitching will help give the impression of eyes and a mouth. The ruffles and implied cotton will also, imply hair. Instead of having the blankets be striped, I think the bed sheets being striped feels more appropriate and simply more akin to what I've seen bedding kits look like. The colors tie it together with a more sinister burgundy and yellow stripe as an homage to the original. Beware, Bedasma, the sleep track Pokemon, a ghost normal type with the abilities Fluffy, Cotton Down, and Levitate. After absorbing dreams over the span of decades, these discarded pillows have grown sentient and aspired to live a life of their own. The heads constantly bicker as they possess different goals, but ultimately feel a bond as they grew from the dreams of the same human. Trainers chance upon this Pokemon on the ground and sleep on top of them at night, while Bedasma consumes their dreams. God, I love the lighting of this render, and I hope it was okay that I changed the lore a bit from the original, which was simply a monster that attacks humans. I feel like the Pokedex entries that I added explained its existence in day-to-day a bit more, but ultimately this may be my favorite Objectmon I've ever drawn, so thanks Jaxomon, and thank you all for submitting. If you want to submit for a potential part 2, please follow the link in the description and consider pressing the join button to become a YouTube member, or becoming a member on Patreon, so you can easily land a spot in a potential part 2. But that will only happen if you like, subscribe, and share this video so that everybody knows about this opportunity. Make sure to check out my other Fakemon videos in the meantime, and I'll see you guys very soon.